Okay, guys, our next section is going to be our Ask the Doc question. And this week's question comes back a little bit on what Matt was talking about with the endocannabinoid system in regards to naturally increasing it, because there are, of course, the external cannabinoids that help to regulate the system, but our body's also producing natural ones all the time to help us regulate pain and stress. So what can we do individually to make sure that our endocannabinoid system is healthy and optimally functioning? So one of the ways to think about it is for three specific things. Number one, you have to feed it. Number two, you have to avoid suppressing it. And then finally, you have to nurture it. So Jim, what are some of the ways that you can feed the ECS?
So there are actually some endocannabinoid enhancing foods. So we're going to break a few of those down for you guys. The big one that they're showing a lot of payback as far as with inflammation goes are your essential fatty acids. So the more common two that I think people think about are your omega-3s and omega-6s. The omega-3s are going to be more of your anti-inflammatory fatty acids, and then omega-6s can be anti-inflammatory, but they're a little bit more pro-inflammatory compared to the omega-3s. And there's always going to be a healthy ratio that everybody kind of looks at as a 1-to-1. But in our Western diet, it's typically a 10-to-1, favoring the pro-inflammatory. So here's some foods that actually can kind of help balance out that ratio, and we'll kind of list them out. So hemp seeds and hemp oil, which feeds off of what Matt had just gone through for the last 45 minutes and talking about where they can pull some of the CBD from, and the sources are from hemp. And then you got your flax seeds. You can grind them at home in a coffee grinder, or you can find it in an oil like the flaxseed oil. You can also use chia seeds, walnuts, sardines, and anchovies. Yum! I know my dad would appreciate hearing that. And then you got your pasture-fed or omega-3 enriched eggs. So those are all really, really good choices for boosting the essential fatty acids. Then we get into some things. I know my wife loves chocolate, so she'll be excited to hear this one. So chocolate has a lot of great benefits too. Cacao powder, it's kind of spelled funny, but it's the CACAO cacao powder. It contains 3 compounds that are structurally very similar to the ECS or the endocannabinoid system. And we see these numbers really, really high in the darker of the chocolates and in just straight raw cacao. Then we can also look at the herbs and teas. Numerous herbs and teas contain compounds that can enhance the ECS. Specifically, echinacea has been shown to have a lot of those, and then also turmeric. It's the yellow spice found in curry powder. It's very high in curcumin, which also raises the endocannabinoid levels amongst numerous and other health benefits. Then we want to get into some things like Craig had mentioned, things to kind of block, things to avoid, things to look for when you're out shopping for foods or cooking your foods and certain things. So we want to watch and maybe aim for more organic produce, organic meats even, because there are certain pesticides and phthalates. Phthalates is spelled funny. It's PTHALATES, and those are disruptive little compounds that are found in plastics. So for those of you out there who cook things in plastic Tupperwares, or if you drink bottled water that maybe was sitting in your car and the heat, exposed, it can actually leach these phthalates out, and they can be disruptive to your estrogen of your body. And since we're speaking of the ECS, the endocannabinoid system, these can all kind of they're known to block the cannabinoid receptors, and they can disrupt the body's hormonal system. Not good. And then when Matt was speaking about cortisol levels, typically coming down from using CBD, you'll see that this sends the cortisol levels up, and you can see unwanted weight gain, inflammation in the body, water retention around the midsection, all that. So always choose glass or stainless steel food containers and packaging whenever possible, and never eat food that's been heated in plastic like we just mentioned. The other big one, last one I'll leave you guys with, is watch your alcohol consumption. Regular use of moderate to high quantities of alcohol can impair the ECS, and so make sure you use in moderation when drinking, or just avoid alcohol entirely.
I know we were talking last week when we talked with Danny, he was talking about some of the microplastics that are in salt. So when you were mentioning all the plastics and how it messes with the estrogen system, and now we know that those same plastics that we're finding in some of the salt, I think I better go get some of that
no doubt. Redmond's real salt.
Redmond's real salt that he was talking about. So And then finally, I wanted to touch base on some of the things that you can do to nurture the system. And these are not rocket science. These are things that are going to be avoiding stress, as far as they're things that make you feel good, right? So yoga, meditation. I don't know how many times we're going to hit meditation in this, but getting adjusted. Hey, that's
Mm-hmm.
always a good one, right? Anything that you can do to relax yourself, playing outside with your family, and that includes adults too. Sex, that's
Mm-hmm.
always a plus, right? Those are things that are going to help nurture the system so that you stay a bit stress free, minimize that cortisol, and maximize the natural production of your cannabinoids to keep your ECS running at high capacity. So, again, not rocket science on this last part to nurture it. We always want to do things to avoid stress, but just find time to enjoy certain activities that are going to keep you a little bit more level headed.
Perfect. Well said.